What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button. What we're going to be looking at today is this Hustler Raptor SD. My customer says every time he puts a drive belt, or some people call it a traction belt, it throws it off about every 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and jack it up, getting into a safe spot, and hopefully figure out why it keeps throwing the drive belt. Alright guys, now that I got it jacked up into position, I'm going to take a look underneath here and see if I see anything obviously wrong. The belt is not damaged, it's not shredded. The first belt he showed me had snapped, so when the belt snaps, that's usually a sign of sudden impact. And when the belt is shredding, it's usually something, the belt's obviously rubbing up against something. I don't see anything wrong. I do see some damage to this fan, probably from when the belt has flung off. Small little spring here. I'm going to remove this belt, and to do that I'm going to remove this clutch. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit and just remove this deck belt that way, and now I'm going to drop this clutch. So it's a lot easier to remove this wiring harness if you go ahead and get this tensioner arm and spring out of the way. So I'm going to take my needle nose pliers here, bend it right there. There's a little tab that you got to pull up, easier to use like a screwdriver. Get in there. There we go. Like that. That's the little tab I was trying to get underneath there. So now I'm going to just go ahead and drop this down. I don't like how the belt is so close, it gets in a bind against that brake spring for the transmission. So I'm going to have to get some more tension off this belt to get more slack. Alright, so now that I have more tension off the deck belt, I can just pull this belt out a little bit more. Just drop this clutch. Alright guys, I think I figured out the issue with why the belt is jumping off of there. There's nothing seems to be wrong with any of, this was my initial thought, was something's got to be wrong with this idler here. While it doesn't feel perfect, it's okay. I can just feel a very slight little bit of bearing wear, but I'd say it's still got 80% of its life. The tensioner arm moving up and down, I might cinch that up a little bit, snug that up, but you want it to be able to move freely and easily. And this is the only tension that it has, this little spring here. Now another thing that could have been the problem was, this could have been installed upside down, because you can see, and it's an easy thing that mechanics will do. Also there's a keyway in there, so don't lose that keyway. But you can see how there's a different distance between the top and the bottom of this is a sheave, okay? So if you installed it incorrectly against there, it's going to give a different height lined up with all the other pulleys, the hydraulic transmission pulleys, and this pulley here. So that was installed correctly, but literally while I was trying to find a place to hang my work light, I found the issue. The frame is broken right here. So what's going on is, as he's cutting and everything, the transmission is under stress and it's wobbling and it's causing this thing to move up and down and throw that belt. Regardless if that is the actual issue of what's causing that belt to be thrown, this needs to be addressed, because the hydro transmission is not really mounted anywhere else on the back except for right here, and it's obviously moving up and down, otherwise it wouldn't have broken it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this and weld that back. So guys, I've been saying for a while that I'm going to start showing you guys how to weld. This will be a good segue into my series of welding and why you need to know how to weld. Welding has been very good to me over the years. It's a very good skill to have. Before I realized how extensive this repair was going to be, I was thinking I was just going to be able to have to weld this rear tab. So the first lesson in the welding is preparation is everything. You know, you want to get all that paint, rust, oil, debris. You want to get down to bare, clean metal. Oftentimes I see guys, they'll grind, whatever, but they don't realize that weld's going to penetrate and have paint. So you want to get into all areas that weld is going to get into. And the preparation is actually what takes the largest amount of time. The welding, I always tell people, is kind of like icing on the cake. Once you get the prep job done, it's pretty easy to get it welded up. And with proper preparation, it's not only going to be an easier weld, it's going to be a higher quality weld. All right guys, so what I did is I went ahead and snugged it up, that piece of frame there, that little tab. And as you can see, it's not aligned, which I was expecting to have to just maybe jack it up. But upon further inspection, I noticed, see this bracket right here? See how it's bent in? And so what I'm going to have to do is move my jack stand to this frame and bend that bracket over, and then I was going to loosen up these other bolts, and then as I went around here, I noticed that that tab is also broken. Camera won't focus right there, but the frame is broken right here as well. So basically I'm gonna have to pretty much loosen up this whole hydro. I might end up, I'm trying not to just take it out. I don't feel like messing with that oil today. But I should be able to do it without having to do that. But I'm gonna have to put my jack stand underneath this frame and just loosen this whole thing up. Probably straighten this bracket out. I guess they probably hit something or slid into something, and that's probably what broke everything. Or they might have been unloading it from the trailer or whatever and fallen off of it, and that's probably what caused these breaks here. So basically what I ended up doing is dropping the transmission and just setting it off to the side. I didn't have to drain any oil or do any of that. I just needed to be able to get to that bracket to straighten it out, and then get to that front tab to get it back prepped and welded back properly. Now with that transmission out of the way, I was able to get to that front tab, got it nice and prepped up, got all the paint removed. And right here, I'm just going to tack on the corner edge, but I'm lining up and looking right where it lines up properly, because those bolts got to line up properly for this to work. So I'm going to tack right there. Didn't have quite enough gas on that tack, if you might notice. Enough shielding gas. But I'm going to tack the other side, and you can basically use those two tacks as a flexible hinge. If I needed to use the hammer to knock that tab up or down, I could do that. But that tack is also going to hold it in position for when I make the weld bead, because when you create all that heat, it's going to draw the metal. It's going to pull it in. So you got to be aware of that. So I'm going to tack right here on the other side. It's kind of hard to get in here, but this MIG was definitely the way to go. So now I can get in there and make that weld all the way across. And this metal is not really thick enough to worry about beveling it for penetration. I'm getting plenty of penetration. It's only about an 1/8 inch thick. But despite that, I'm still going to do this the proper way. Most people think that welds are weak, but when done properly, the weld is actually stronger than what that base metal is. So right now I'm just going to take this grinder and I'm basically grinding into the material. Now that my weld on the top is holding it in position, I'm grinding a groove for me to weld into, and I want to from the bottom, and I'm hoping that my goal is for my weld to make full penetration and probably contact into the top weld. And this will actually be stronger than before, stronger than it was from the factory. So here's a look at it from a different angle from the bottom after I ground out that little groove, and I'm about to weld it up. So here I go, doing an overhead weld here. And guys, you got to make sure that you have a good ground. And let it, while it was still hot, tap that little end there. Now I'm going to make a second pass. That ground is just as important to have that nice and clean as what you're welding. And sometimes you might have to stop, it depends, because this material is pretty thin. But when you have the settings dialed in just right, you usually shouldn't have to stop. But thinner stuff is actually harder to weld than thicker stuff, because you'll burn through so easily on thin stuff. Now we're going to let that cool off, and then I'm going to kind of grind it down, smooth it out. So basically, when you're first starting out, you can do your best and grind the rest. All right, so now we're on that rear tab. As you can see on the top left corner, I got my ground clamp. Got a nice spot cleaned off for it. And what I'm really particular about, what I'm looking at here, is the fitment, the placement, and because these holes have to line up, so I'm trying to kind of make sure that I'm getting it right where it should be. And I'm ever so carefully just going to tack it right here on that end. And then I'm going to tack it on the other side, and then look and measure and make sure that everything is lined up properly before going ahead. And I'm going to do that top weld again. Grind out that bottom side that we're looking at right now, the back side, to get a good, nice, deep, strong, penetrating weld. But before I continue welding, now it's time to make any adjustments I need to make. I'm using those two tack welds as kind of like a hinge where I can adjust that tab where it needs to be. I'm needing to come down a little bit, make it nice and at a 90-degree angle with the rest of the frame. So now here's that rear tab again. This is the first one that I saw that was broken, and I'm about to weld the top side of that now that I got it in the right placement. So I'm welding that, then we'll get down to grind out that bottom side and do the bottom backside weld. So there's a little bit of a closer look at that weld. So now let's get on that bottom side, grind it out, and weld this up. So this is a little bit better camera angle. You can see that groove there, and I'm making my pass down through here. Just a little bit of movement. I don't really even think about it, but you can notice how I have that cup there, a delay pulling that nozzle away from the weld, and that is to let that shielding gas cover that weld. I'm going to make another pass here, but real quick, the shielding gas is what protects that molten puddle from the oxygen. It's very important that you don't let oxygen get into the molten puddle of the metal. And you see how that
caught that powder coat or paint on fire. Always good to have air, water, or something. I like to use just an air hose because you don't have, doesn't make a mess or anything. But you want to be able to put out any fires really quick, and just expect that type of stuff to happen, like paint burning and things like that. But just make sure you don't have gas, oil. Like one time I was welding on a mower, it had a leaking gas tank, and I was underneath it, and next thing I know, I heard the whoosh all of a sudden. I jumped up real quick, and I had that thing put out with a fire extinguisher before it did any damage to the welder, but I had no idea that the gas tank was even leaking. So right now I'm just going to ground this bottom side here, and that's pretty much just to make it mount up to the transmission easier. So now it was just a matter of installing it back, putting it all back together, and then test driving the unit. The customer said the belt would throw really quick, probably after just a few minutes of running. So I wanted to drive it just to confirm there wasn't any other issue. So this definitely solved the customer's issue. I test drove this mower for about 30 minutes. There's a little close-up look of the weld on the front tab before I added a paint. So guys, I hope this video helped you guys out, and this is going to be, like I said, the segue into why you need to learn how to weld and do things like that. I'm going to be doing a lot more welding. Just to update you guys, if you don't know, I no longer am working for anybody as far as a dealership or anything, but don't worry, I'm going to have lots more repair videos coming. As you can see over here on this table, I got 2 hydro transmissions out of some commercial John Deere mowers, but I'm also going to be getting into some welding. Just bought me a new little Miller 215 what do I keep saying? Multimatic is what it's called. 215, really nice welder, and we're going to be getting into like trailer stuff, welding. It's going to be, welding is so useful, and that's one reason I'm not working at the dealership anymore. I've had a side business going on for several years, and now I'm about to take that to the next level, doing that full time. Currently have several products that I've been building. I'm in 13 different dealerships, and I'm about to be in about 20 additional dealerships. So I hope you'll follow along and see how valuable the information that I have to share with you guys is. I hope it helps you guys out. And for you younger guys, I know I look at my analytics, and most of my viewers are 55 and older, and I want you guys to really start sharing my videos and sharing my channel with some younger guys. You don't have to go out and get a bunch of student loan debt and get a college degree to have a nice life and make a decent living. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll have more videos like this coming soon. I'm about to do a video unboxing this new Multimatic 215. And also, if you saw in that video where I mentioned I was having some issues with the shielding gas, that welder actually started giving more and more issues. It was always about it wasn't while it was welding, it was like the start and stopping. So I got that actually in for some repair, so I'll have some videos on that coming as well. That was a Miller 211 multi-process, or Millermatic, I don't know what it is. But anyway, I had it for 13 years. Great welder. First problem ever in 13 years. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll have more videos like this coming soon, guys. Thanks for watching.